here I have, this is my wonderful clipboard palette. You can hold it here and it turns into a palette, and it can hold your paper palette pretty good. I've already painted on the other side and I'm painting on this side. This is a orange, cadmium orange from Winsor & Newton. And my trusty little filbert brush, it's number 4 I believe. And let's get going on the drawing. You can see the cornucopia that speaks to the harvest to come. It has this great shape to it. I want to make sure that I emphasize. How do you say fall without a cornucopia? You see the wonderful teapot there, and these confetti on the table here and there. The teapot's cover, which my mother gave me. I haven't used it much because we don't drink tea from the teapot very much here, but these are items from my house. Behind this amazing lantern. Oh look, there's room for the handle. Isn't that nice? Nice composition already. Drawn the center of the focus of the painting, I think, and then over here there's a couple of more items, so let's see how I can draw those. Let's see. Sometimes ellipses can be wonky. That's one of the things that I teach you in art school. You can really see the ear of the mug there, and then beside it is this amazing, they're sort of too far to the left actually, but I want to fit in the, so I could maybe move them on the composition, as long as things, and then, you know, add one or two more confetti-like things. Sometimes you have to think about what's not there to make it look better as a composition, and fill it in. Maybe make that go off screen, off camera, off composition. The cube just goes that way. Because it's there, but it's not the focus. Nice little square candle inside. And then you can see the edge of the table that everything's sitting on behind, so let's make sure that that's part of it. There we go there. And then you see it goes right across, right about there. Table line. Table line. You can sort of see it on this. And that's the composition really, but I might add the curtains behind. I think that's nice. You can see I've done a lot of the outlines of all the different objects, but there's some few things missing. What's missing? The tea bag. What I put in front here. There's a nice tea bag. Just a little rectangle shape. And the details of what's inside the cornucopia. Some of these leaf shapes I might refine as I go into the details of the painting itself, but they're not exactly perfect little leaves. They're sort of on this ribbon here, not perfect. And then there's all these berries, you know? It speaks to life like berries. The abundance of the fall here. Even inside, what's inside that? Some squash. Sort of see them behind. And other sort of shapes. So that's going to be really pleasing to delineate when it comes time. For now, they're just sort of gestural. Falling leaves happen. Am I missing anything? What haven't I? Sometimes I get to a point and I go, I think I missed part of it. Like the tea bag. I painted everything else, but where is it? There's the edge of the... Make it look three-dimensional. And then sometimes you just look for the shadow. There's not much shadow on it. I have it lit from all sorts of places to make it a really bright piece. So there's a bit of shadow coming this way. Maybe a bit there, but some coming off the objects a little, but it's just going to be really bright. Even though it's on a dark ground, so this will be fun to punch up the painting. You don't have to make the drawing perfect. It's easy to get nailed down into making everything the right shape right away, but as you paint's so fluid, it's like, as long as you think you have things in the right sort of place, then you can adjust. But if I'm happy with the whole composition, I'm fine. I can adjust the small details later, but I'm happy with the drawing. Thanks for watching. So here I am again. This is my palette now. All you see is orange, brown, umber, like burnt umber, and my titanium white, that same cadmium orange. And my big number 12 filbert. It's not that big when you think about how big the painting is, but I'm going to start filling in the tablecloth area with sort of a brown, orange, light brown orange. It's sort of cream almost, but I want to keep the orange as part of the whole painting, so we'll see how this goes. Looking like the right color. see it underneath, which makes it really tasty. There are minor variances in the tablecloth that I might go back into. You can see there's a bit of a stripe. But for now, just making it the color it needs to be. You can really see the black ground underneath that, so like it'll be nice to go back over it, like with some highlights even, getting the stripes better. Sometimes painting can be a little bit of paint by numbers. This part yellow, this part brown, but you can see there's variances between more of an orange on this side and more cream on this side. So that's the tablecloth. There's a bit behind, I'll keep painting it. Remember the line I made behind the still life? Where was it? Here. Yeah, that's tablecloth back here. Up there. And then here. Yeah. And I might go over the shadows with a different tone later. This is sort of modeled in here. See through the lantern into the tablecloth. It's pretty much the same color. Doesn't get affected too much by the glass. There we have it. Now it's on the ground, just with one brush. So the only thing I am adding to my palette after this part is a little more white and some red. So, see it there? Ooh boy, isn't that nice? I don't know why, it seems very earthy. And later on I'm going to pull in some greens, but it's a very warm painting and I want it to look like very hospitable. So, what do you think I'm going to paint with the red? You can't see my reference right now, so you have no idea what's going to be red. What I'm painting from, and yes. Red teapot. sort of need to adjust the size of the spout a little bit. We'll do that. Like I said, minor adjustments. There. What happens? There is the top of it, right? The ellipsis. Same brush, same number 12. Just painting with the edge of it. Paint the handle too. Isn't that enticing? It looks like what kind of tea is it that you're gonna bring me over and have tea with me? What kind of tea you're gonna serve? I don't know what kind that is. Well, there's a little bit of orangey reds elsewhere that I'm gonna just keep painting with, so the leaves. And even the tea cozy has some pattern on it, so makes it look sort of like what's going to come out of that teapot. I don't know, but something. And what's on the what do they call it? The dishcloth itself. There's some. Maybe I needed some water. Right now I'm painting pretty directly out of the tube paint, but just a little bit of water here and there helps the paint last. Sometimes you have to paint patterns right away and it's like, oh, I just want to paint blocks of color. But I already did a whole bunch of colors, so. Now, I love the flatness of the background, but because it's such a different paint visually, just the craft paint, I'm just going to warm it up a little bit with a glaze of burnt umber. Right in the background. I don't like it because it's black. I can go over it again and it'll cover it pretty good. There, you can't barely tell, but with the naked eye, it'll be very nice. And, well, we'll be able to get a nice different quality in the glass here with the background being different. Sometimes I just squish it right onto the board. You can kind of tell the brown right there. And then water down, mix it up. Umber isn't really glazable. They say, is it? It looks glazable to me. If I make a mistake, it's acrylic, it's easy to fix. but because it's acrylic, you really have to be quick. Which means, like, that's why this demonstration's so quick, because if you don't draw quick, it dries on you and you can't, it's just where it is. If you don't paint quick, it's done. That's where it is. You can go over again with gesso and fix it, but so there it is, a nice warmer background and not just makes it look a little more like an oil, a glazed dark background like that. I might add another glaze of blue ultramarine later, but here, look, it's dripping even. Is that a mistake? No. There it is. That's my reference in the behind. You can see this nice just black backdrop. Isn't that nice? So here I am on day 2. You can see that I've painted in some green and into the shadows a little bit too in the candle. Today I'm going to focus on detail, especially in these sections, and make things look more realistic. Hope you enjoy watching what I do today. Yes, so I've put some black onto my palette, which, you know, people think that you shouldn't use black at all. But I challenged that, like, what's his name? Not Monet. Manet did. He used black all the time, and it was part of his aesthetic, so I feel like I should be able to use it professionally and not be rejected for it, but I know it bulks the goats a little. To those that are purely traditional painters. So I kind of like doing that. You know, it's the artist in me, don't hold me back. So that's a bit of the detail. I'm going to go get some more color onto my palette and do some color detail. So sometimes I paint really directly. Usually pretty directly with this acrylic. That means I don't use a lot of water and I just mix paint on the palette and apply it to the surface. Pretty directly. It just has a certain look to it. And over the years I've just been like, I don't want to build up any sort of glazing effects, not much at all. So I do that sparingly. I do for certain areas, right, like I did in the background, but to do that for an acrylic painting would take a long time. Many hours to build up surfaces of paint to get a similar effect, really, to direct painting. So I'm like, well, I'll just continue to direct paint because I like the way it looks. I can mix it, like I said earlier or yesterday, I can mix it on the surface as long as it stays wet quickly. So sometimes when an object is white, there can be lots of variances to it. Like snow, like seeing paintings of snow, it's not just white that you see when you see snow. There's all sorts of variances. So any sort of object that's white also has variances to it. There's highlights that hit the surface. And lowlights into the shadows. So that's better on the surface of the cups. I might go back to the tea towel a little bit. So I was thinking I was going to go and sometimes you fight the amount of tube you have left. I don't have very much of my yellow ochre left, but I do want to attack the table a little bit. Like I said when I blocked it in, there's this pattern that I want to add, so use it, but see how far it lasts. Now I use Winder and Newton, and now it's like harder to come by here in Canada. You have to buy it internationally. Used to buy it from the States, but with the tariffs, now I have to buy it from Britain, which, you know, that's a long way away from here, so. So I'm just sort of going to apply the stripes where I see them on the table and knock them in a little bit. And there's a bit of a wrinkle here and there. Sometimes with patterns they disappear in the light, so you don't even see where the stripe ends or where it starts. But they're there, you know, sometimes subtly. You can see them a lot clearer down here. I may leave the underpainting part a bit, but right now I'm painting with my another filbert. It's a number 4. I think it's the same brush that I drew with earlier, but it's a good one. I like filberts. Easier to blend with and softer around the edges. Sometimes with acrylic it's easy to get harsh. Harsh, man. Harsh. That's so harsh, man. So you can get a softer brush, softer edges, and it could be better for you. Filberts are great. They work great. Synthetic too, normally, because acrylic's plastic, so if you have a plastic brush, then you're staying in the medium. I'm watering things down a little bit, but mostly right out of the tube. Sometimes people can get really, you have to put the lines exactly where they are. I'm more expressive. So they might sort of be there. Make it look, suggest that they're there. Right now I'm running out of paint, so I want to finish these lines. Maybe use a little more water. Just get this part done. Nice cream tablecloth with stripes. Looks a lot more, you know, real, I guess, you know. Tracing some of the light hitting the tablecloth with the white. The edge of, well, especially while it's still a little wet. Part of painting is just seeing light. You don't just see form. Light enables you to see form, and if you can't trace the light, then how do you know where the form is? So there. Beautiful tablecloth, isn't it? Oh. Well, let's go into some more detail, maybe with some greens. So here is my tube of, well, it's not a tube, a jar of Winsor & Newton Professional Acrylic Titanium. You can see on the jar it says it's UK, EU, made in France. So I got this on Amazon. I'm not quite sure if it was sent to me through the States or what, but usually I paint from tubes, but I use so much white. But you can tell it's like almost done. I have to dig it out. Just use my palette knife to get it out of the jar and onto the paper palette. It's a well-used palette knife. So right now we're going to go into the green areas and maybe trace some of the leaves, whether they're green or red or orange. They're very fall-like. So got some more white and measuring in some of that nice, beautiful, warm, beautiful, warm sap green. So there's a few things I can trace here. There's an edge of a leaf. That's the edge of the leaf there. Sap green is pretty transparent, but when you mix it with white, it becomes pretty opaque. So you can lay it on top of other colors and it's a bit of green on this leaf and that red. And even here there's like this weird leaf coming out of the pumpkin area. It's difficult, you know, because I painted from photographs so much. It's easy to just look at everything and paint everything with the same detail, but see this tea cozy, look how gestural it is. And the tea towel. You know, I don't want to go into too much more detail on it because it's not the focus. This beautiful thing is, and into here, that's the focus area. So I don't want to put detail in it, and if I did, it would lose the focus of where I want you to look. So I want the viewer to look at the beautiful arrangement more than anything, and then see everything else. So I painted leaves before. This is like not a real leaf, so sometimes you want to like take care with tracing the surface quality of the fake thing, because you want it to look real. So I have to think a little more about what a leaf feels like. I'm in Canada, these are maple leaves. They fall here, you know, in Western Canada too, but more so in the east. Come on, cover that whole thing up here. Tracing each individual one in the focus area. It's really pleasing here. So here I am still with the cadmium orange, cadmium red. Really warm, beautiful colors. Capturing fall. So like the tablecloth, sometimes you just have to hit the highlights. Like, there's these highlights on the leaves that if you don't find them, you can't see where the light starts and where it ends. But as you capture the highlights, then it really comes to life. Some of my smudgy drawing here is turning more into reality. The edges of things look like leaves, not just paint strokes. So, yeah. Again, this is very direct painting, not much water, right out of the tube, mixing them with the palette. I also have this leaf is pretty brown, so I have my number here. Which I don't like it too much, that color, because it looks a little like eggplant, so I'm going to come back into it. I feel like Winsor & Newton's in my brush. There's lots of burnt umber still. This one also says UK, London, EU, made in France. So they're a lovely paint. I love them. There's a reason they have my allegiance. Just added some more umber. And I'm going to go back into the leaves, this leaf here. Darker umber. And orange, maybe, to make it look more real. And a fake leaf. It's not a fake leaf in my imagination, it's a real one. So, again, the edges, making them look more like leaves. So don't those especially look like leaves now? Beautiful. I like my filbert so that I can just get these nice edges. Sometimes there's just this like paraphernalia in an arrangement. It's just there. Random little twigs. Blessed, amazing cornucopia. Speaking to the harvest to come. You don't have to describe everything, but this is the focus area, so I'd like to describe a lot of it. This is a ribbon here, sort of going around behind. There's sparkles on it, which, you know, I painted in acrylic a lot, so it's tempting to go find my gold paint and, you know, there's a sparkle, so add some sparkle. That really affects the surface quality, and I want it all the same, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to paint with my brush and try to bring forward the sparkles. Here and there, just a little bit of light. Just little sparkles. There it is. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail on the right side of the cornucopia and then into the nuts and the teapot. So as I get into detail, I like to paint with a smaller brush. This is a tiny little Princeton. I don't know why, I guess I'm stuck on that brand, another Princeton filbert. Also the rounded edges of a filbert. Number 2. This is normally the kind of paintbrush that I draw the underdrawing with. It's a good size for that. And then sometimes I go even smaller. We'll see how this painting goes. This leaf here looks a little nondescript to me, so I'm going to go over it and strengthen the edge. And there's some minor adjustments to this here too, like the edge of the teapot. This is an out of the tube cadmium. There's a bit of a shadow on the pot, so kind of mix in some brown. It's not that noticeable, but if you don't paint it in, it's going to be like, where's the shadow? Sometimes that happens, you miss pieces, and then it's like, why does it look like that? Oh, you forgot a shadow, or you made it the wrong color. Or Other than that, it looks pretty much like it does. I was thinking I was gonna take this tea bag and make it look exactly like it does, but I think I don't want it to. I don't want it identified as the tea bag it is, so you can guess. Black label. Over here you can see I've added these leaves, which I want shadows, but I don't want them to be too dark. So I'll paint blue even underneath. You can see if I'm making things up, like this painting has a lot of light sources, but mainly from the right side. You can see it. There's the shadows heading that way off of objects, pointing to the left. So if I don't get the same shadows on objects I've added to the table imaginatively, then it doesn't start to look real. So some objects wouldn't have much shadow. So I'm not quite sure about this. This is kind of a mottled looking blue shadow in here. I don't know about it. Because I guess, you know, there's some reflected light going on, so I'm going to add a little bit of weird blues. Not just the shadow itself, there's reflected light in here too. Like, it's really weird. I guess it's because there's more than one light source, so not just reflected, it's actual light sources coming from other places. But still trying to capture the main crux of the matter, which is the light source coming from the right. But also capturing the beauty of all the different dots of light. You can't get that kind of beauty with just one light source. It looks sort of magical. Dot, 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 dot. So oh yeah, I was going to do, I need a little more of that yellow ochre. That's almost gone somewhere. Found it. This shadow needs to be stronger. Like, here's the table. Here's the, it's really right there. And the edge of the cup needs to be, it's not a question of if there's a strong line, it is a strong line. Whereas in other things like brush leaves, you can leave edges. With a hard surface, it's much more difficult to do that. Doesn't make you want to have some tea. Sit down and grab a cup. enjoy the fall. A lot of the surface is quite dry. So, also what I like about acrylic, dries so quickly that I can go touch it. Oh, it's dry. No problems. Back here you can see a bit of a tag. Hanging off of the thing. Hanging off of the... That's what that is. So earlier you saw a drop through this black line and it was like, what is that? When I looked again at the tea towel, I said, hold on, the tea towel goes there. It's much more rounded there. So you can see it through the tea towel. Trace some of the oranges. I'm not being too detailed, like I said, on the tea towel, but you can see the shadow of it folded over. So, and the line of the... I'm almost finding this brush a little big, so I think I'm going to get into some more detail. Just on the things that are I want to be in focus, and I'll grab a smaller brush. So we're drawing to the near end of my painting of this painting. I've decided to call it Harvest Blessings. Yeah, it's just very festive. One of the things that I think is really meaningful as a painter is that I've heard it said that the word paint is, in its origin the word anoint. So, you know, when you're painting somebody with oil, sometimes when you pray for somebody, you paint them with oil. You paint your surface with paint, and you're anointing the surface. So this is my anointed painting. But you can still be gestural with it if you want, but it's mainly for touching up. I'm pretty happy with everything, really, so I think that's everything. Thank you for watching it with me. I hope you enjoyed this video.